What if the most infamous death sentence in history wasn't born out of justice, but fear? What if one man's trembling insecurity changed the destiny of the world? You've heard the story of Jesus being condemned by Pontius Pilate. But what if everything you think you know is only the surface? Behind that judgment seat, behind the shouts of the crowd, behind the silence of Jesus, there was a secret, a truth few dare to confront. Pilate didn't condemn Jesus because he was guilty. He condemned him because Pilate was terrified. And what he feared most wasn't Rome, wasn't the crowd, wasn't even death. It was Jesus himself. Today, you will discover why. Have you ever wondered why a Roman governor, cold, trained, disciplined, looked into the eyes of a silent prisoner and trembled? The trial of Jesus is one of the most powerful moments in human history. A moment that altered kingdoms, shook empires, and still echoes across centuries. But behind the scenes, something deeper was happening. Something political, something spiritual, something Pilate never expected. Because Pilate knew the truth, Jesus was innocent, and yet he sentenced him anyway. Why? What forced his hand? What made him betray his own conscience? What did he see in Jesus that left him unable to sleep for the rest of his life? Today, you will walk through the 10 real reasons that pushed Pilate toward the most tragic decision ever recorded. And before we continue, I want to ask you something. If you were in Pilate's place, would you have acted differently? Tell me in the comments. The moment Pilate first saw Jesus, something inside him broke. He expected a rebel. He expected a violent leader. He expected a man begging for mercy. Instead, he found a calm silence that felt like judgment itself. Jesus didn't defend himself. He didn't plead. He didn't fear. And for a ruler used to control, used to power, used to obedience, that silence was terrifying. Pilate realized something instantly. This was no ordinary prisoner. This was a man he could not intimidate. And that was the beginning of his downfall. Pilate was not loved in Judea. He was feared, but not respected. Rome had warned him more than once. Keep the peace. No more riots. No more trouble. He had already angered the Jewish leaders with his harsh policies. One more mistake, and Caesar could remove him forever. So when the religious leaders dragged Jesus into his courtroom, demanding death, Pilate saw himself trapped. If he freed Jesus, they would accuse him of protecting a rebel king. If he condemned Jesus, he would betray his own conscience. Pilate was no longer judging Jesus. He was judging himself. He calls himself the King of the Jews. Those words were the spark that lit the fire. Not because Pilate believed Jesus was a political threat, but because Rome didn't tolerate anyone who even appeared to challenge Caesar. Pilate knew the accusation was twisted. Jesus himself had explained, "My kingdom is not of this world." But Pilate also knew how Rome worked. Appearances mattered. Rumors mattered. Whispers mattered. And if word reached Caesar that Pilate had spared a man called King, his career and his life could end instantly. Fear began to poison his judgment. In the middle of the trial, a messenger rushed in with a trembling voice. "Your wife says, 'Have nothing to do with that righteous man, for I have suffered greatly because of him in a dream.'" This should have been the sign Pilate needed. A Roman governor receiving a supernatural warning through his own household. But rather than bringing clarity, it deepened his fear. He wasn't just dealing with politics anymore. He was dealing with something divine, something he couldn't control. The Jewish leaders had tried logic. They had tried accusation. They had tried religious arguments. Nothing worked. So they took out their final weapon, the one they knew Pilate couldn't resist. They shouted, "If you let this man go, you are no friend of Caesar." Those words stabbed Pilate like a sword. Pilate's entire career depended on one thing: being seen as loyal to the emperor. If the leaders sent a report to Rome accusing him of protecting a traitor, Pilate would be finished. He imagined the consequences: disgrace, exile, execution. At that moment, Pilate realized something horrifying. The crowd wasn't on trial. Jesus wasn't on trial. Pilate was. And Jesus stayed silent. The contrast shattered Pilate inside. Every Passover, Pilate had a tradition: release a prisoner chosen by the people. This was his chance, his escape, his last hope. He offered them Jesus and Barabbas. Barabbas was a known murderer, a revolutionary, a danger to society. Surely the people would choose Jesus. Surely they would do the right thing. But the leaders had worked the crowd, manipulated them, turned them into a weapon. The people screamed, "Give us Barabbas!" Pilate froze. The air disappeared from his lungs. It was as if justice itself had died before Jesus did. The moment Pilate hesitated, the crowd sensed it. Like predators smelling blood, they grew louder, angrier, more violent. "Crucify him! Crucify him! Crucify him!" Pilate tried to speak over them, but truth is always quieter than rage. He watched the hatred in their eyes, the fury in their fists, the madness in their screams. And he knew one wrong move and a riot could explode across Jerusalem. Pilate wasn't choosing between justice and injustice. He was choosing between chaos and survival. And survival won. Before giving the final verdict, Pilate took Jesus aside, desperate, shaken, searching for answers. He whispered, "Don't you know I have power to free you or crucify you?" But Jesus looked directly into his soul and said, "You would have no power over me if it were not given to you from above." Pilate felt something collapse inside him, a weight he couldn't explain, a truth he didn't want to face. This wasn't a man fighting for his life. This was a king accepting his destiny. And against that kind of authority, Pilate felt like a child holding a wooden sword. Unable to bear the weight of the moment, Pilate did something unforgettable. He called for water, a simple bowl. In front of the crowd, he dipped his hands into it, letting the cold water run between his fingers. And he declared, "I am innocent of this man's blood." But he wasn't. No water on earth could wash away what he had chosen. No witness could absolve him. No ritual could silence the guilt echoing inside his chest. As the water dripped from his hands, it might as well have been blood. After condemning Jesus, Pilate believed the story would end, that the world would forget, that history would move on. But the opposite happened. The earthquake, the darkness at noon, the torn veil, the rumors of resurrection, and then the reports, soldiers whispering about the empty tomb, leaders panicking, Rome demanding explanations. Pilate had tried to avoid danger. Instead, he became part of the greatest divine event the world had ever seen. He didn't escape history. He became a warning inside it, a warning for every person who knows the truth, but is too afraid to stand by it. And I ask you again, if you were in Pilate's place facing pressure, fear, danger, what would you have done? Tell me in the comments. If this story touched you, if it opened your eyes, if it made you see the trial of Jesus in a new light? Leave your thoughts below. Let's talk about it. And don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share this message with someone who needs to hear it today. Pilate thought he was judging Jesus, but in the end, Jesus judged him, not with words, not with anger, but with a silence that revealed every fear inside Pilate's heart. The true story behind the trial is not about politics, not about Rome, not about crowds. It is about one man who looked at the truth and chose comfort over courage, fear over justice, power over righteousness, a choice that still echoes today, because every generation, including ours, must decide what Pilate couldn't. When truth stands before you, will you defend it or wash your hands of it?